Satnam Bandidos, welcome to Mel's Magic Official. I'm Magic Mel, and this is Charles, my guardian angel. And we're continuing our discussion about what it means to be a spiritual warrior. And if any of this resonates with you, then you are one too. But first of all, let me clarify the documentary I mentioned yesterday, and I couldn't remember the details. So the documentary is called Move When the Spirit Says Move, The Legacy of Dorothy Foreman Cotton. And it's a documentary film about the work of this bold and unsung civil rights activist and educator who worked closely with Martin Luther King. That was the name I couldn't get out. So watch that documentary. It's truly, truly inspiring to see how somebody is lit up by the passion, the fire, the constructive fire that comes with standing for a cause and acting from that cause with the conviction of embodying love. And love and truth are at the other end of what we're working towards, no? And in that sense, let's work from the end. I told you that if we embody the frequency of love, of truth, it means personal freedom. We are free from the bondages of the paradigms that keep us stuck in unworthiness, in the programs that the old matrix is trying to keep us stuck in. Personal freedom, the freedom to really choose, use your free will to make a conscious choice of how you want to move forward. I came across a website called The Toltec Spirit, and I really resonated with their content. So today's discussion will be based on some of their content. I want to expand on that. The characteristics of a spiritual warrior. That's what the website is called. A spiritual warrior is a person who challenges the dreams of fear, lies, false beliefs, and judgments that create suffering and unhappiness in his or her or their life. Why is it called the dreams of fear? At the essence of it, we cultivate a discernment to know, to cut through illusions. And darkness or lies or distortions are really only there if the light is not there. The light of your awareness, the light of your truth, of your discernment can cut through and make you realize that, there are just illusions, there are dreams. Dreams in the sense of it's not really the truth. It's a war that takes place in the heart and mind of a man or a woman, or whatever gender you identify with. That is the essence of this spiritual war. I mean, really, it's the age-long war between, I'm careful to use these words, but let's say darkness and light. I don't want to call it good and evil. Let's call it darkness and light. And the quest of a spiritual warrior is the same as a spiritual seeker around the world. You know, when I went to Punjab, I came in touch with the Sikh culture, the Sikh faith. And Sikhi actually means seeker. So a spiritual warrior is a seeker of truth, of a higher truth. And you might sometimes doubt whether you are worthy of this. Maybe you have embarked on this journey, but on the journey, as in any journey, you may have encountered obstacles or points in your journey that simply made you question yourself, the journey itself, and whether you've got it in you. And I had the same. I'm wearing these bracelets, which are one of the symbols of Sikhi faith. And at some point I asked myself, who am I to be wearing this? For one, because I'm not officially a Sikh, as in the religious faith, but I am a seeker. And these bracelets remind me of my devotion to this path. To my devotion to embodying my own divinity and to this pact I made with the divine. So at one point I took them off because I thought, who am I to be wearing this? Am I really worthy of this? And my friend and trainer, Kundalini Yoga trainer, reminded me of my worthiness and that it's normal to question. And it's a good thing to question also, because it brings you back to your why. Yeah? So we are seekers. The spiritual warrior faces this challenge with the clarity and awareness that this war is fought within you, and that truth and unconditional love are at the other side of these battles. So the conflict is foremost within you. And the challenge is to access this clarity and awareness. That's why we cultivate ourselves. Kundalini Yoga is the yoga of awareness. First of all, we become aware of the sensations of our body, the emotions we hold, because often we're just decapitated in that sense. Now the consciousness is stuck in the headspace. We're overthinking. And we're disconnected from our emotional body, from what we're feeling, because it feels too dangerous. It feels too threatening. So cultivating our awareness of what we're feeling, the sensations in our body, and the capacity to hold those emotions, because emotions, energy in motion, can feel intense and overwhelming, no? If you're somebody who feels deeply, my hope is that you do not punish yourself for that, but that your ability to feel is your strength. And we just got to learn how to navigate those feelings, understand them and process them. Without feelings, we're just pure automatons. And somebody asked me about AI and spirituality. The fact that we're human beings, the fact that we have emotions and feelings separates us from a pure automated consciousness. The fact that we can access our intuition, which is the direct line to the universe, the higher spirit, the higher consciousness, separates us from robots. So your ability to feel deeply is a gift. It may have felt like a double-edged sword, because feeling deeply also means the capacity to suffer deeply. But by honoring your gift of feeling and learning how to manage your feelings and emotions, the so-called curse becomes a blessing and a gift to yourself and to all of us. To win the war against fear, that is essentially the war we're fighting, because fear creates distortion in yourself. It creates distortion in your emotional body, in your soul body. It fragments you. It fragments your consciousness. It splits your consciousness. And then the fear we see outside. We live in so much fear, no? So this confrontation, this battle requires awareness, courage, discipline, and commitment to transform your emotional body. I'm quoting from the Toltec Spirit website. Transforming our emotional body. I call myself an alchemist. An alchemist is able, well, back in the day, this metaphor of transforming lead into gold. And it's a metaphor that stands for transforming really our emotional body from dense emotions into freer, higher emotions. And the gold is a spiritual gold, no? In Kundalini Yoga and in Sikhi faith, we call it the Amrit. It's the golden nectar of awareness. We hold emotions in our body, especially from the trauma, the disconnection we've suffered in our childhood. It's been stored in our unconscious body, in our subconscious. And now that we are in this transformation, this process of ascension, because the frequency is rising, all of the buried emotions, the denser emotions, are coming up to the surface for you to heal. And healing means essentially bringing back into wholeness through the love of your awareness. If something or someone triggers you, be blessed, be grateful, because a trigger is there to reflect back to you the ammunition that you hold inside, the wounds that you carry inside, the spaces that need to be integrated from your own dark subconscious into the light of your awareness. That takes real strength and compassion, which is another trait of the spiritual warrior. True compassion can only be accessed when you yourself have sat with your own suffering, whether it's anger, whether it's pain, whether it's grief, whether it's shame. None of those emotions are bad. They are messengers. Compassion means sitting with the suffering. So we can only really have compassion for others if we first have compassion for ourselves. Presence is more important than positivity. Yeah, you hear me speaking about the higher states, the higher emotions, and I am all about living a life of joy, which is deeper than happiness. However, the most important thing is to actually be present with all of our emotions, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We can't bypass what we're feeling, no? So whatever we're feeling needs our awareness, our capacity to sit with it, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it feels threatening or scary. Often what happens when we're simply present with what we're feeling, instead of trying to change it or denying it or repressing it or suppressing it, the feeling itself transmutes. So can you be compassionate enough with yourself and present and strong enough in an emotional sense to be there for your own suffering, to not run away from it? Because those emotions, they're like, treat them like aspects of yourself that simply need your love. If you have a child, I personally don't, but I imagine that if your child is crying, you wouldn't just repress it and shun it. You would be there with your loving awareness as much as possible. So how about looking at your grief or your sadness or your pain like a little child that needs your attention? Strength is not just about physical strength, it's about emotional strength. And we're here to cultivate that and to build the capacity of our nervous system through Kundalini Yoga or other practices to make it strong enough so that we can sit in the tension and the discomfort of witnessing our suffering. And it's a practice, and we will fail. But remember, we always get back up again, and we are forgiving and compassionate with ourselves. We don't expect us to be perfect, but we keep at it. Awareness is essential because it is the state of consciousness that allows us to discern between facts and the truth, between stories and the lies of our mind. So again, our mind can spin a million stories and can take us into all kinds of alleys. But it's really this higher consciousness of awareness that can be the discerning intelligence. So we may be smart intellectually, but we can make decisions thinking that we're making a smart decision. But in hindsight, it wasn't maybe an intelligent decision that came from the discernment of your truth. So how can we become more aware of the stories that our mind spins? It's by looking at our beliefs, no? What belief does a certain story or a certain emotion that you're feeling, what story is behind that? And what belief is behind that? We start to look at our beliefs and really ask ourselves, is this true? Is this really so? This is a lot of what Byron Katie's work is about, no? Deconstructing our beliefs. Because our beliefs are reinforcing. Our beliefs are like ways of perceiving the world. Let's say our one belief is like one pair of sunglasses, and it filters out information to confirm that belief. It's a self-reinforcing mechanism. But our beliefs can keep us stuck and can make us really suffer. So it's important to cultivate a method and a practice that allows for more awareness, for more capacity of observation and stillness to look at those beliefs. Are they really serving you? Are they really true? The courage of a spiritual warrior. The courage that makes for a good soldier also makes for a good spiritual warrior, but the intent becomes completely different. A soldier has the courage to face a challenge that may bring physical harm. The spiritual warrior has the courage to question, challenge his or their own beliefs. By challenging our own beliefs, we can dissolve the lies that cause us suffering. To challenge our beliefs requires courage because it means the end of our illusion of safety. When other people challenge our beliefs, we are usually quick to defend. We defend them even if they cause us to suffer. As a warrior, we learn not to defend what we believe, but to challenge those very beliefs ourselves. In this way, we're able to sort truth from illusions. Says it's easier to follow orders as a soldier because we are threatened with consequences and rewarded to motivate us. There's something outside of us that dictates what we should do, and we follow an outer authority. But a spiritual warrior must have the discipline to practice dealing with their own mind without someone else providing the motivation with carrots, with rewards or punishment. So we spoke about this strong sense of identity that is self-renewing. And in Kundalini Yoga, just as here in Mel's Magic Official, the aim is to be sovereign again. So to follow our inner authority. And that inner authority is ultimately linked with divine guidance and the connection to your divine spark inside of you. So this often means going against the fearful opinions in our own minds that tempt us with illusions of punishment and rewards. And we also must have the discipline to follow our own heart, even when tempted by another person's opinion. It requires a disciplined practice. We spoke about the brain, heart, and gut connection. We spoke about how important it is that you are connected with your emotional, your spiritual body. And if you ever thought that you are broken from childhood trauma, you've never been broken. You've only been disconnected from your intuition and from your truth. But you've never been broken. So that's something really important to remember. The love of the spiritual warrior. So a soldier has a commitment to love his or her country. The spiritual warrior commits to self-love, and not in a narcissistic way, but in the fact and the remembrance that really truly you are love, and that you're invited here, you're given the opportunity to embody love for yourself. Why? Because loving yourself creates an overflow. And we are here to nourish ourselves so that we can nourish others. But if we come from a lack of self-love, a void, then we're not able to really serve from an overflow. So self-love is the foundation. And if you are aware that you are connected to everything, that means all of creation and the divine, then there is no separation. Self-love means loving others, loving the divine. It's a unifying force. So the warrior then extends that love to humanity. There we go. The commitment is required because in our journey, we will certainly fumble and fall many times. We spoke about that too. And it is in having a strong commitment that we get back up again. I'm going to post this, reference this website in the description of this video, so you can also read it. In time, we become committed to love for the sheer enjoyment of expressing love. Once you know that you are love, happiness, joy, peace, bliss, and fulfillment, you want to give, you want to share, because that is the nature of love. The nature of fear is to take. The nature of love is to give, to expand, to share. Not at the sacrifice of yourself. Doesn't mean overgiving, oversharing, that comes from lack. No, but from true inner wholeness. So it gives the example of Jesus Christ as the greatest warrior because, hey, let's face it, he had the courage and discipline and openness to love unconditionally, even whilst being rejected and crucified. I mean, I remember he did have a moment where he shouted, no, like, Lord, why have you forsaken me? But he still embodied love and compassion even against his persecutors. Now that is a real challenge because now it's easy to love those who are loving and kind, but how about loving the so-called enemy or the person that you dislike? Still being compassionate towards them? Wow, that's another level, no? But in this war, we are transcending the victim persecutor paradigm, because that is self-perpetuating also, no? We switch roles. And you might say, hey, it's easy to be loving and peaceful when you are in a loving and peaceful environment. Yes, I get it. We got to create structures and build environments that are conducive to bring these higher states out in us, because you and I know we are capable of atrocities, of destruction, of violence. We need to be aware of that. So how can we cultivate ourselves and our environment and literally build structures, environments that will bring out the best in us rather than the worst in us? It's not about being blindsided to our darkness and our capacity for evil, but it's about cultivating and nurturing the highest potential in us. Consciously, with awareness, with practice, with loving compassion and loving devotion. So I'll leave that at that for this morning. And I encourage you really to look within and connect with that warrior of light, spiritual warrior within you. Don't let self-doubt take over. If anything of this resonated with you, then you are a warrior too. And you know I'm speaking about the warrior in the highest sense. So trust that. Let me know what you think, feel. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you for the continuation of this discussion. Ciao bandidos. Charles and Magic Mel wish you a great day.